Hmm. Mmm. I know how to start videos, I swear. Pikmin's honestly an underrated gem, and I think we all know this. I mean, there's no beating around the bush anymore, especially since all the games are now on the Switch. You should become a bit more acquainted with them. But to skip ahead, it is one of those examples of a easy to learn, hard to master kind of thing. A game that on the surface is just objective survive, but it actually provides a tense learning curve in optimizing how you go through each day itself. And it can be satisfying when you learn how to make the most of each one, giving it a reason on why it's still, like, one of the most enjoyable titles I like picking up to this day. Aside from its weird sense of humor and very colorful cast, but that's not what this is about. This isn't a talk about the games themselves, but more about the loop that I mentioned, to an extent. I kinda just wanted a reason to talk about these games and why I enjoy playing them so much. Not you, hey Pikmin. This is for real games.
Hang in there, little guys. Pikmin.
Pikmin 1 is perhaps the most simple and the most open to many aspects. The game isn't that long, with your goal being able to collect 30 ship parts in 30 days, and you're just that guy, Giga Chad, Captain Olimar himself. Now, you can do what babies do and get one part per day, which is valid, but my monkey brain says that's dumb, and you gotta scramble for each one. And it makes the areas in Pikmin 1 so good for this kind of thing, as it gradually increases how much you need to know and do. Starting with the impact site, it's a very small area that acts like a nice little rest stop to come to if you need more soldiers for your army, with having a little bit of items here and there to come back once you find more. Garden of Hope opens up a bit more, introducing all kinds of creatures and troubles you'll find, like Bulborbs and the goddamn Sheargubs. Get off my bridge! Sorry. Freaking yucky bugs. Ugh. It's also more open to lead you to other destinations, allowing you to plot where you want to go and which objectives to tackle, housing some more larger enemies like the armor cannon beetle and the burrowing snagret. Forest Naval continues this trend, introducing water to the mix, being more closed off early on. So that way your objective becomes not only collecting stuff, but also tearing down the walls so you can create the best path. It does become a bit tricky since you're limited on bomb rocks, but it works. And, you know, it makes it a lot harder since a lot of the open areas are guarded by Wollywogs, Blowhogs, and the many fire geysers, but it can be done. And then something like the Distant Spring kicks it up to 11, being the most open area with plenty of obstacles and the most diverse amount of troubles you encounter, leading to many different enemies blocking your way on collecting treasures, showing what you can accomplish and maybe have over the course of the game. The point I'm making with highlighting these areas is that it helps identify the gameplay loop, because Pikmin 1 is more about strategy and planning. Every morning you better know where you've been and where you plan to go. That way you have a clear path for everyone and everything you want to get. It's not always easy to get it down, but after a couple playthroughs, you can use your knowledge to your advantage and reduce the amount of days it takes in order to beat the game. It really makes you think, oh, I can go around this guy and take out this other one? And get this ship part? Brilliant! Also, how could I forget to mention the end of day? I mean, just seeing all your Pikmin come back with you to the Onion as the sun sets and you ride off, it is a perfect way to end each day, and I'm glad that it's stayed in every game thus far. Except Hey Pikmin, but again, we don't talk about that. It just really gives you this feel of, yeah, I did something today. Now it's time to go and relax, which I think is what the game was going for. Really helping with the more arcadey feel the game has going. But for as simple as it is, I feel like we can do more. Oh, a whole lot more.
I said with mustard.
Make it 2.
Pikmin 2, I feel, takes the approach of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. To heart. Kinda. I don't know, let me explain. The general loop in the overworld is about the same. I say about, because even in the starting area, the Valley of Repose, there's some tricky enemies that you can find as you further reach out into the area. Arguably the worst being a fiery Bulblax, an area closed off by water, but again, you need blue Pikmin for that, and you don't get that a little ways into the game, but still. Honestly, the areas in Pikmin 2 aren't fucking around this time. And while thinking may have helped you in the first, you gotta do double time. Nope, not even that. Like, you know the movie Lucy? Yeah, you gotta access that level of brain power sometimes to navigate these areas. All kinds of enemies like creeping chrysanthemums, a larger abundance of shearwigs and sheargrubs with bridges everywhere it seems. Water dumples can fuck you up in the water if you're not careful. Swooping and bumbling snitchbugs, and even later game enemies like orange Bulborgs and the Gatling fucking groin are the bane of my existence. There's even more Snagrets that I found prevalent in the game, because Jesus Christ, they love these bird snake enemies more than they should. And you do this while managing 2 squads at the same time. That really brings more of that optimization and planning from the first, as you chart each day and what each captain can do. What sucks is that you have to constantly switch between the 2 in order to get anything done, because I guess they didn't program a guide feature yet. But with that said, that's not what I feel makes the game so interesting with its gameplay. Oh yeah, you can find treasure and a wide array of enemies in the overworld.
Nah, Louie, that's just the tip of this iceberg. Read! Read!
Yeah, it's time to talk about the caves, and whoo boy! The caves in Pikmin 2 can make or break the game and the experience for someone if you're not careful. Some of these areas are relatively tame, especially the early ones, but later on become an absolute nightmare if you don't know what you're doing. Make one step and stuff like rocks, bombs, and even enemies fall from the sky. Randomly generated floor layouts, and even pairing up some of the worst enemies in some terrifying spots. You have to be on your toes now more than ever to even minimize the body count you're bound to amass here. Not even the easily abusable purples can help in every situation, as some might lead you to believe. The way that the game works in the caves is more trial and error, and it's something that even resetting the game won't help you do, because there's no guarantee the same strategy will work again, as the enemy and the floor get all scrambambled. And you know what? I kind of like it. This is definitely the most chaotic game in the series, but it's in a way that the chaos isn't entirely unfair. Yes, there are some floors that are absolute bullshit. Looking at you, multiple Bulborb floors with a single Bulbear patrolling around in the late game. But if you just sit back and calm down, you can get through it. It's a process that requires you to learn much more than the first in ways. It helps solidify this game as my favorite because it's not always the same. And let's be real for a second. If you know every single aspect of everything in a game, it just becomes boring. It becomes monotonous. I don't know. You can call me crazy all you want for liking pain and suffering, but you gotta hand it to Pikmin 2 for what it brings with the caves alone, becoming more of a true survival experience. Stop that. You're not gonna talk about the water wraith while I'm here. He knew what he did.
But as they initiate the landing sequence, something goes horribly wrong.
Now, with Pikmin 3, if you ask me, I feel it does a little more and a little less. What do I mean? Well, I'm gonna have to explain. So, you do get more captains, something that I kind of sidelined in the discussion of 2, because you can only do so much with it. And that guide feature I alluded to. See? It came back. As well as each area being equivalent to the distant spring if we're talking about openness from the get-go. Even with all the obstacles in the way, it's still pretty vast, and you can get a lot done on your first visit to each place. but it loses a lot of the insanity the second had, which is what made it so interesting to me. Honestly, I still think 3 is a good game, it's just underwhelming in some aspects. See, in 3, instead of feeling accomplished for overcoming the odds stacked against you, it's more of a relief for taking care of a nuisance. I mean, really, some of the enemies are just more annoying, and sometimes the Pikmin AI can act like those tripping leaves in the first one. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. At least for me, half the day is spent taking care of some enemy instead of getting the fruit I need. But, that said, the 3 captains and how you split them up is probably the best case scenario and actually makes part of it fun. It once again comes back to the planning and optimization, honestly my 2 favorite words in this video, and it's a lot easier to send out each captain to do a different objective with what's needed. And it's something that needs to be done if you want to collect all the fruit you need, otherwise you'll run out of juice and die. So hop to it. Even though the game is much easier than previous ones, you can still make mistakes, and it's just getting used to some of the things in the area and the mistakes you make that'll turn into a satisfying game after a while. I also feel it plays a lot more like a Metroidvania style game than the others. While before each area had things you were able to see and then come back later to do, the appropriate amount of Pikmin or the appropriate type, it seems to go double on that in 3, even to the point where the area you're exploring and the Pikmin you find are tailor-made for that specific type. It'll make you think, hey, I saw this thing earlier too. I wonder if I can go back and check what that was all about. And honestly, I kind of love that part of it. As someone who multitasks on things on the daily and loves to figure out stuff that I previously knew and use it even in real life, this is the kind of day-to-day gameplay for me. And honestly, that's all I have to say about Pikmin 3. It's probably even more simple than Pikmin 1 in aspects, but it's also like the most streamlined. I think I've said all I can think about it. It's not as good as 2's, but it's a lot better paced, and I dare say fair. But it's well enough to create an experience all on its own. I'm gonna be honest, even though it may have sounded like I was negative in some parts, I fucking love Pikmin. Like, no matter how it plays, it's always a good time, and I hope that when 4 comes, it keeps a bit of that momentum. At the time of recording this, I've seen a mix of many things. And I hope that when the demo comes, it can be what I want. Even though all I really want is for it to be good and nothing else. But I've said my piece. I hope you enjoyed the ramblings once more, and I guess the less me kind of videos, as to be expected of the quick bites, as I call them. I really needed a shorter video after the last one, and, well, it was worth it. Hopefully it won't take long between this and the next. Let me know what you think, since it does help, and thanks for sticking to the end if you did. I'll catch you later. Bye. I'm gonna go play Pikmin, probably. I don't know.